If Ty West's unconventional trilogy has taught us anything, it's one thing and one thing only. You want to make it in Hollywood? You start by doing porn. My name is Ren, and this is my review of Maxine. Welcome back, film family. Thank you for joining me as we conclude the Ty West's horror Americana trilogy, a trilogy I've become infamously associated with for not being that big a fan of, unlike most of you guys, but we'll get into that later in this video. Taking place after X and in 1980s Hollywood, adult film star and aspiring actress Maxine Minx finally gets her big break. But as a mysterious killer stalks the starlets of Hollywood, a trail of blood threatens to reveal Maxine's sinister past. And as quickly mentioned before, I have just not been as enamored with this trilogy as everyone else. X is a fun enough throwback to 70s horror, and for me, Pearl was an absolute tensionless waste of time with no surprises to it whatsoever. The one shining star in that film was Mia Goth's performance, which has been the most consistent element in this entire trilogy, and with Maxine, that is no different. Once again, she is an absolute force of nature on screen, now playing with a backstory of X and that spunky personality that just pops off screen at every single second, and now she's surrounded by performances that are trying to do the exact same thing, and most of them are successful. Also, because this is the most well-rounded cast in the entire trilogy. Bobby Cannavale, Michelle Monaghan, Giancarlo Esposito, Kevin Bacon at his sleaziest best. It is so unnerving to see this guy constantly chasing Maxine, where what he says doesn't exactly match with how he's going about it, and so you feel the thrills. This is the most tense movie out of the entire trilogy thus far, with one of the best kills. The least important of these kills, by the way, is the gnarliest one I have seen in a while. I had to look away. My entire body was wincing. And this is not even a kill that really matters for the film. It's the first one in the movie that you see on screen, and yet just shows you all the gore, all the glorious practical effects, and teases the rest of the carnage candy that is about to be unleashed on screen. Also, I love movies about movies and about filmmaking and movies set in Hollywood. I also love period pieces. And with Maxine, Ty West combines all these ingredients that just pop on screen individually, but what elevates them is the juxtaposition of horror and gore video nasties with the stars, the glitz, the glamour of Hollywood to the backdrop of an incredible 80s drenched soundtrack. The soundtrack is one of the best elements of this entire film, and it just helps transport you to 1980s Hollywood, which in and of itself, it's an important element of the film to talk about. The film is set to the backdrop of the Night Stalker rampage through 80s Hollywood, a very real event, which I know concerned some people. I think if you weren't concerned about the fact that Brad Pitt kills Hitler in Inglourious Bastards, you shouldn't really be concerned about this. Not to spoil anything, but the Night Stalker is really the dress setting. It's the backdrop of the film, doesn't really matter for the story. And that's when we walk into issues, because for the most part, as entertaining as it can be, as great of a time capsule that it can be to show low budget horror being done so effectively and potently, but there are so many elements in Maxine that don't really matter for the story, and they're just there as dressing. Not many of the characters here really matter. Lily Collins, who I adore, was in here for about one scene, and most of the other characters are in here for a handful of scenes. And it just makes this film so dependent on red herrings that by the end of it, you don't really care. I personally found it too predictable. I guessed the reveals, the twists right from the get-go. I don't know if everyone's gonna do that. I'm not saying I'm super smart, precisely the opposite. That's what this film does. It also sort of turns into self-parody of itself in the third act, where you have nail-biting sequences, thrilling moments all through the first and second act, and the third act, in the kind of wink, tongue-in-cheek sort of way, it's looking directly at the camera, making fun of itself. And I love those movies. I love movies that can make fun of itself, but to me, it just didn't work that you only do that in the third act when the rest of the film, it's at its in its own reality, in its own world. And so tonally, Maxine just didn't pay off in any satisfying ways. And if tone was the only issue, I think this could still be a great movie. Unfortunately, its over reliance on red herrings without actually wanting to mask anything of importance or substance really let me down. I think it's the most well put together film of the trilogy. It certainly is the one that is most to my taste, that has the most elements that I gravitate towards, but it's still, once again, a frustrating watch just because of how much potential it had. It was the most promising movie. For me, it feels like the movie that achieved the most with its elements and ideas. However, I don't think it will convert skeptics. If anyone else out there is feeling like I am about the previous two movies, or hell, you feel even worse and just don't like either of them, I doubt Maxine will convert skeptics of the Ty West trilogy. I hope it does. It almost did to myself. I can certainly say this was worth the wait, and I certainly prefer it over the other movies. But that is it for my general thoughts on Maxine. Before I dive into my final thoughts, it's time for you to start the conversation about it in the comments below. What is your favorite film in the Ty West trilogy? Is it X? I know it's most likely Pearl. I have the unpopular opinion. I've grown used to it. Anything and everything down there. If you're enjoying this review, there's more reviews like it right up here. And if you want to keep on joining me to talk more movies and TV, this is the place to be. Consider clicking that subscribe button and you won't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. Maxine thrives under the bright lights of 80s video nasties Hollywood in the most engrossing and overall best period piece in Ty West's trilogy. Still faulty and predictable, but this Tinseltown caper is elevated by its killer soundtrack, gnarly kills and gore, and of course, Mia Goth's electric screen presence. I'm giving Maxine a B. Thank you so much for watching, Horror Family. Remember to start the conversation about Maxine and the entire Ty West trilogy in the comments below, and stay tuned for many more videos coming very soon. Big shout out to my channel members for always supporting the channel, and until the next one, love each other and love the movies.